Here's a question I was asked to answer. What do I do if I'm in the broom closet and I have an altar where I live? I've been asked this a couple times. People who are in living situations where they live with very judgmental people who get vengeful and vindictive, horrible. If there's any visual evidence of any kind of spiritual practice that isn't going to church on Sunday, as pagans, as people who follow older paths, old European paths, old paths from anywhere else in the world. The definition of pagan is fuzzy. You ask people if Native Americans are pagan, well, you'll get different answers. I would digress. If it's not Christian, there are people who will get pissy about it here in the U.S. and probably in other countries as well. If you're in a living situation where you are really feeling the call of a pantheon or a god or a sort of spiritual modality of one kind or another, and someone oppresses you, tells you you can't have an altar, or makes it very clear without necessarily words but rather with actions that having a spiritual space that isn't Christian is that they're going to come after you in some way, they're going to make your life more difficult, do something like that to you. Something like that goes on, there are ways around it. Besides the obvious, which is to say fuck it and move, which is what a lot of people do when they come out as trans or gay or lesbian or non-binary, and their family that they live with or the roommates that they live with or the spouse that they live with isn't supportive. Sometimes it becomes such a big deal and so important that they do just unplug from the situation. But not everyone has that luxury or privilege, if you want to put it that way. Not everyone can just go, this is who I am, I'm out, if you don't like it. Some people get out by killing themselves, and that is horrible. That is really horrible. That makes me very sad. So what do you do? What do you do if you can't get out and you want to keep living? Well, you can keep a sort of subtle altar. By a subtle altar, I mean a countertop in your personal space or a surface in your personal space that has a couple of objects on it that stand in for what you might ordinarily have. So instead of having like the giant tapestry of Shiva, with the chalice and the big fancy Gothic blade sticking out of it and the candle wax running down the sides. I'm talking about my altar, by the way, or nearly so. Instead of having something like that, you can find unobtrusive knickknacks and objects and stuff like that that are meaningful to you, and arrange them on a surface in a way that is meaningful to you, and consciously intend that to be your altar. And someone else who comes in your room or your space or wherever you are, your office, desk at work. I've done that. I've had subtle altars at work, several jobs. People were none the wiser. Oh, what an interesting collection of knickknacks. It's not Shiva, it's not Odin, it's not Zeus, it's not Athena. It'll be like a little statue of a hoplite, or of someone carrying the spear. And just put it there next to a picture of mom. There you go, right? There's your ancestor altar. It's not the best thing to do. It can be kind of unsatisfying, but if you do it with intent, you can make an altar that is just as great of a place of reverence as anywhere else. Well, put a few things out on your desk at work that remind you of the spiritual side of yourself and those that you're honoring, that you're saying thanks to, those who watch over you. And, bring a little snack. Put it in a little plate in front of the picture of mom and the hoplite. There's your offering, right? Well, depends on your tradition. In the older European traditions, you put out food for the ancestors or for the gods and goddesses. You give them their chance to sort of absorb the energy. And because you don't waste anything, you eat it after they're done. But not every culture is like that. In fact, some cultures absolutely find the idea abhorrent of eating anything that was touched by the dead. I get that. When I've left stuff on my altar a little too long and it starts to mold, I'm not going to eat it. But you know what? I think it's disrespectful to throw it away. So you know what I do? Take it out to my garden, put it in the compost pile. And I'm conscious of that when I make the offerings on the altar. That it's stuff that I may end up putting in the garden. So I don't put like salted chips, stuff like that on there. Snackrifices, which I think is an offensive term, by the way, because, food is food, right? Doesn't matter what you're offering to the gods and goddesses or the ancestors. What matters is that you're doing it and that what you're doing is meaningful. Same thing with the subtle altar. It's meaningful. It's something you're doing to pull your attention in to that space, into that mindset of gratitude and connection to those who watch over you, whether they're gods, goddesses, ancestors, totem animals, spirit animals, power animals, archangels, whatever you practice with, whoever watches over you. Be grateful, and having a subtle altar is one way to do that. Another way to do it is to have a hidden altar that you bring out and put together only when you know it's safe. I had one of those at one point. It was a hollow book. I picked up a hollow book at a thrift store, and I put a bunch of altar stuff into it. And I kept it on the shelf, so it just looked like, at best, it just looked like an ordinary book. At worst, it looked like a hollow book that might have money in it, but no one ever touched it, right? Because you ward it, of course. And but whenever I took it out of the shelf, because whenever I needed an altar, I could take that out of the shelf, set it up, light a candle, right? Meditate, focus, uttaseta, that kind of thing. Another thing that you can do is have an altar in an unconventional place where other people don't typically go. Car altars are one way to do it. Of course, you don't want to go too over the top in your car because you don't want anything to get in the way of your driving or to be too obvious if you get pulled over. That's a lot of fun. You can also keep an altar in a constructed mind space or a meditative mind space, the mind castle idea, the pocket dimension, the place that you go when you're meditating before you journey. You can keep a really impressive, amazing altar there and do offerings at that altar as well, entirely in the non-physical realm. Another thing that you can do is wearable spiritual expressions. One of the reasons why I wear this jacket in a lot of my videos is that this is a spiritual garment for me. May not look like it. Look, it's covered in punk spikes, and it's got, nuclear symbol there and the love here, and probably people, my great-grandmother's quote, whatever turns your pickle green, right? So, punk jacket, right? Couldn't possibly be spiritual, right? Think again. There's a spiritual side to all artistic expression. And while people might look at this jacket and say, oh man, that's a scary biker punk. I don't even know how to ride a motorcycle. I didn't learn how to ride a bicycle till I was 15. Because I grew up on a gravel road that was full of ruts and there was nowhere to ride, so just wasn't something that was in the cards. But for me, this jacket is not the original purpose was not to create a punk jacket, but rather to create something that looks like a punk jacket. but instead has so much more meaning to it. It has my ancestors. It has Granny, my great-grandma right here, right? It has the things that I like, the things that bring me into a state of spiritual ecstasy on it. You know? Well-behaved women rarely make history. And, oh, it's on this side. Fuck your gender norms, right? There's my trans side, my gender queer side. No labels, no masters. To remind myself that sometimes labels are totally silly. Totally silly. Heathen, pagan, northern tradition, shaman, people who follow foreign Seidr, whatever you want to call yourself, is important to you. Me, I want to make sure that I'm open, that I don't allow other people's labels to define me. I don't allow someone to come up to me and go, no, you're not a pagan, you're a heathen, and you need to just drop the pagan idea. Well, I'm both. No labels, no masters. These sigils here all have meaning to me, as does this. This patch here is dedicated to a man who was basically my brother in every way except blood, that I lost last year. I have my ancestors on this jacket. I have sacred symbolism on this jacket. And that's just the front. The back has quite a bit as well. And I wear it. So in a way, this is an altar that I'm wearing and presenting in front of you. Do you know that the Vikings as well would sometimes stitch magical incantations into their clothing? They'd put together a rune stave that had a particular intent, and they'd stitch it right into the jacket. Do I have one on this one? Well, it's a label, but that's the idea. So how can you use that as a subtle altar or a way to be open about your spirituality without people being vindictive and messing with you? Be subtle about it. Stitch something into your outfit. Create an outfit. Wear a necklace that people will look at and go, oh, that's pretty. And that's all they think. You know, I'm pagan. I'll never wear a pentagram. Not because I have any kind of ideological issues with pentagrams. I think they're awesome. But I've seen how people treat other people in the U.S. when they wear a pentagram. Unless you're, somewhere totally corporate controlled, like Disneyland, where they're taught to say, blessed be, if you wear a pentagram. Anywhere else, you run the risk of being attacked. Hopefully not physically, but people will make your life harder if you wear obvious symbols. It's just a fact of life. So what do I do when I'm at work? I wear a necklace. I wear a necklace with a bind rune on it. Most people don't even notice it. I mean, it's basically blends in with my work shirts. Those people who do notice it go, that's a pretty necklace. And I say, thank you. And it's usually left at that. Those who dig deeper say, what is it? What's it made out of? Oh, it's antler. I made it myself. Oh, cool. Ends there. Only once in a great while does it go any deeper than that. And usually the people who go deeper than that are on the same wavelength as you. I've had people look at my necklace and stare at it. And I go, and I try to ignore them. And finally they say, is that a rune? Oh yeah, it is. It's a bind rune. Only once have I heard someone say, oh, like that show, Vikings. Or I guess there's some sort of thing on the East Coast that's Viking themed that is you can go and buy runes at. I don't know. I don't know what it's called. I haven't looked into it. but one person told me that there was that going on. Oh, you must have bought that there. Oh, no, I made it myself. No, I'm pretty sure I saw those there. Okay, you're the boss. I've had multiple people actually open up whole lines of conversation about runes and spirituality because they saw this. Whereas at least 90% of people will look at it and go, oh, that's pretty. And they just leave it at that. Subtle ways of expressing yourself. These subtle ways can be more individual as well. Sometimes it's better to wear something, the binder, that is uniquely related to you as an individual within your individual practice than it is to just wear a Thor's hammer or a pentagram just because you want to be with that crowd. And I don't mean like your practice isn't real. I mean, I wore a Thor's hammer for a while because I wanted people to recognize it and go, ah, he's a heathen. Not because I worked with Thor, not because I liked the Thor's hammer, but rather because I was very passionate about my heathen practice. And the most recognizable heathen symbol is the Thor's hammer. So I wanted to wear a Thor's hammer. And I tell you what, you sure do get some interesting attention when you wear a Thor's hammer. It's different than when you wear a pentagram. When you wear a pentagram, you tend to get people who are like, oh, neat, or people who are like, grr, which is more often the reaction. You wear a Thor's hammer, most people go, huh, or they go, or they go, hey, white power, which I didn't like at all. Anyway, we should be able to wear these symbols, these common symbols like pentagrams and Thor's hammers, without people being vindictive towards us for it because of their own religious insecurities. We should be able to be ourselves completely in this world. And if you're doing it, if you're wearing a pentagram and you're dealing with all of this shit that the people are shoveling your way, I applaud you. That's awesome. I think that's amazing because that is an act, a revolutionary act, a powerful revolutionary act. Especially when you're out there setting a good example for the whole rest of the community. You're being upright, you're being honest, fair in your dealings with other people, and they go, wow, this person's really amazing, and they're pagan. That's awesome. Some people can't do that. Some people don't want to deal with that. So, for those of us who want to be open, but not too open, those are some of the ways that you can do it. Those are some of the ways that you can be in the threshold of the broom closet until you're at a place in your life and physically where you can be completely yourself. Confidence, working on confidence helps always with these kind of things. But if you're in a situation where you are hurting, where you are aching to be yourself, regardless of what that is, where you are being actively kept down from being who you really are inside, start trying to manifest a way to get out of it into a situation you can thrive in. And it may take a very long time. Some people it does. The rest of us on the outside are working towards a level of acceptance within society that will keep people from having to be in those kind of situations as often. Wherever you are, no matter how good or bad the situation is, I applaud you for following your spiritual path, however you choose best to do it. I hope this video helps. It ended up being longer than I meant for it to be, but I hope that it helps you and that it gives you some ideas for things that you can do so that you can be more into your practice without suffering from people being cruel to you because of their insecurities. Thank you.